implementing these changes to this wind ordinance are going to set us up for litigation?
Not as it's currently drafted. The noise reduction, no.
Because it's not too restrictive to stop when
It's rationally related based upon what you've heard about how far
Gotcha.
noise travels, etc. I think if you were to try to do what you said, if you try to use a valid regulation like noise reduction for some other purpose, not to regulate noise, but to eliminate the industry, that's not going to be upheld by the courts.
Okay, so what these Darlington, these small towns have been solicited by attorney to put 4 mile zone around them to, can you explain what the rest of those towns are, or how that's going to affect? I know your firm represents Darlington, but could you explain that whole process, what their thought process was and why, or what effect that's going to have? Positively, negatively?
Well, there is a statute which says that towns and cities can exercise certain powers in an extraterritorial way, and there are various distances they can do that depending on what they're exercising. I think that any town which tries to regulate noise for a distance of 4 miles, which is what I think they're trying to do, is going to have a very difficult time having that stand up in court because of what you've learned about sound and how it's not going to travel 4 miles in most instances, this sort of level. So I think that it's going to be difficult to withstand a challenge if that's the path they go down. Now again, if the county had zoning and those towns and cities opted into your zoning regime or had their own, my answer would be different because then they could regulate land use and do so in various ways. But without that, just like you, they don't have many tools to deal with the issue.
Can you address Mr. Bill Milam's concern about the 5-acre limitation as being unconstitutional?
Yeah, it's not, in my opinion, it would not be unconstitutional, and again, I think that the Fourth Amendment he mentions allows the government to take your property entirely as long as you have compensation for that, and I would suggest that in this context that his use of the legal theories is not correct. I mean, you can say property rights and unconstitutional all you want, but I don't think that, I would not agree with his analysis. You're allowed to make distinctions among, in ordinances like this, you can make distinctions and do so in order to protect citizens without raising equal protection issues, which is actually a completely different issue altogether. It's unusual that some of the same people who come before you and say that you need to have different sets of rules for participating and non-participating owners now say you can't do that. You can't distinguish between landowners in any way. You know, you've heard for 6 months now that they want a different set of rules for non-participating owners. And so again, I would just say that, you know, you don't hear lawyers throw around words like equal protection in that way at all. Equal protection wouldn't apply to this kind of regulation at all. That's a different set of rights and a different set of circumstances. But I just find it ironic that the same people who've been telling you to distinguish now don't want you to distinguish, but that 5-acre limitation is designed to provide greater protection for people who came before you and said, look, I just have an acre, I own my own house, I don't want that, you know, I want extra protection. So if you choose to give that to them and provide a larger buffer, I think that will stand a legal challenge.
Thanks, Dan. I just wanted to point out to you that you've met with each of us individually numerous times, asking for our thoughts and ideas on various things. And I think everybody on this board has bent a little bit, one way or another, towards some sort of reasonable, and I like the way you used the word reasonable in your previous talk about noise, that we have bent what I feel like is a reasonable amount in all directions as far as all three of us go. And we're still not happy with maybe the end result, but this is the way government works. It's the way it's supposed to work, is to get together and decide these issues by debate. Being the executive of the county, we can't all three get together and say, okay, we're gonna do 1,500 feet, and 30 decibels, or 50 decibels, or 100 decibels. It has to be individually run through the attorney, and then he shares the information with each of you guys. So it's quite a arduous process that we've been going through, and I hope that the public can appreciate that to a certain degree. I think this is an effort to listen to a lot of the people who we previously said, or at least I previously said, I'm not interested in changing the ordinance, because I really thought, to John's point, that it was a waste of time and effort, since we don't have planning and zoning in this county. I question whether it was even enforceable or not, so why do we want to spend more money on something that we don't know will even pass the test? But I have been willing to bend from 60 decibels to 50, and I've listened to the concerns of the small acreage owners out here saying that they didn't want items measured from their house, but they wanted from the property line. So in order to try to accommodate that, I suggested 5 acres. I don't think it's right to measure from a 1,000-acre parcel an additional setback for those folks, but that's where I came in on the 5-acre deal. So I think this is the way government is supposed to work on the local level, and I'm personally satisfied the way things have gone to this point. I can appreciate John's view, and I totally understand it. It's like our road plan that we showed earlier. If we had something laid out in the county ahead of time, we would save a whole lot of pain and anguish at this point in time. So that's really all I can say to you.
All right, thanks, Phil. Anything else, John?
I put some thoughts together. I knew I was going to ask Dan the questions. Up to this point, there's been a minority of folks who've stressed their opinions both for and against wind energy companies locating in our county. We commissioners have been asked, pressured, threatened numerous times to find ways to prevent this industry sector from locating in our county. Today we heard the legal facts from our attorney as why trying to regulate a particular sector is illegal. It will not, and will only cost you, the taxpayers' money. Dan just told us what actually stands up in a court of law when regulating a business or industry, and until we have a comprehensive plan and zoning ordinances that we can implement, and there's no reason to address this ordinance today, in my opinion. Yes, we represent you. We cannot break the laws to do so. We can only help you understand what is needed, what we need you to support to enable us to represent your vision. That leads into a bigger issue. Today we have no legal tools in place to protect our land or to contest when our neighbor decides to sell his or her land for development of any kind. I did not fully understand the importance of this 2 years ago, not until I went through the economic development strategy process last year that I learned about land rights, economic development planning, and zoning. I knew as county leaders we needed a vision for the future. I knew I wanted a community that is attractive and offers the kinds of amenities my kids, grandkids, and future grandkids would want to live in. What I didn't know was how to create that vision, how to gather input from those who live here so it's a unified vision. It's not that's right, a unified vision, not my vision, but one that our community can buy into and support. What I've since learned is that is the core of a comprehensive plan. It helps shape our future, provides the roadmap to help us get there. It is only successful if everyone provides their input and thoughts as how they want to see our community grow over the next 5, 10, 20 years. What I've also learned is planning and zoning are not the same. A plan is just that, a plan, a vision, a roadmap. It's where we want to be. The how, the tool to get there is zoning. You cannot create zoning ordinances without a comprehensive plan. Does the creation of a comprehensive plan lead to zoning? In most cases, yes, it does. In rare occasions, it does not. The choice is ours. That's the key. But let's get through the planning process first, and then we can decide that. People continually tell me they want a community that is prosperous and thriving. I ask you, how is that supposed to happen? If we continue to be impartial about growth in our county's future, then we will not have listened to those who have elected us to do this job. You have entrusted us to take care of Montgomery County, and my hope is our comprehensive plan will show us the way to a more prosperous and thriving community. Now, there are those that tell you smaller government is the answer, and planning for the future will only cost more money, and they have no plans to vote to spend more money. Their rhetoric tries to instill fear of change because they fear change. That will only set the stage for the next thing to come in our community that citizens don't like. And we'll be asked to fix that as well. I urge you to learn like I have by getting involved in our comprehensive planning process, to let us know what you think the future of Montgomery County should be. Collaboration is the key to our success. I just wanted to put that out there, that you know, if regulating wind energy to the point of not wanting it as a part of our community, then that's the tools that we just heard are. And until we do that, now, yeah, we have 8 months to go through this comprehensive plan process. We can put ordinances in place at the end of that. We have 8 months at risk that the wind energy folks run in and buy up building permits. We can change the rules until they do that. But that's the tools we have.
This is a Band-Aid at this point in time.
This is a Band-Aid.
And we're trying to do what's right for everybody, which is impossible, but we're trying. Because everybody's not going to be happy at the end of the day. I made that statement several months ago, and I still think it's true today. One other thing, not to get off that subject necessarily, but one other thing I want to talk a little bit about is Dan, on the economic development package. When you and I met together, I specifically told you that I felt like if Coal Creek or Ripley or Wayne Township, for example, on that side of the county are the ones allowing wind farms to come in, and there is this economic development money coming to the county, how is that money fairly distributed so that those folks in that corner of the county or the folks in the northeast corner of the county where the activity is taking place, how do they get the lion's share of that money to use on their roads and infrastructure going forward?
Well, what you had suggested to me was that any money collected from an economic development agreement, which is a separate part of this, under your ordinance, that money could be earmarked for those townships. And so that they would receive. Right, well, it would be in the agreement itself, so yeah, it would be just earmarked money that would benefit the roads or other infrastructure in those townships. And again, there's no requirement that that's the way it be handled, but I think that was your suggestion, handled that way. Now again, that decision will be made in the future if there is an agreement reached in that manner.
And my point was just out of fairness to those people who claim to have to look at these things, at least they should end up with a good road when it's all said and done, and maybe not end up in the southern half of the county, unless the southern half of the county also participates at some level at some point in time. But right now, what we're talking about is Sugar Creek, Madison, Coal Creek, Ripley, and Wayne included. I just felt like those particular areas needed specific economic development consideration.
Okay, guys, thank you, both of you. I guess I'll just finish up in closing with the obviously the introduction of the changes, so this can be on our agenda for next meeting, on the June 11th meeting, to be adopted or declined, whichever we choose. I'm not going to take a lot of time saying a whole lot because you've all heard it before, just like I've talked to many of you and heard, from you guys sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, I know. But I think you know where my stance is on this, and as I told you all from the start, it's not me in my personal opinion. I try to make my decisions based on what I think is best for the county as a whole and each individual person. As Phil said, we know not everybody's going to be 100% happy with our decision, but we was elected to make decisions, and that's what we're here doing. And if there's anybody that feels like we haven't gave this any time and any thought, then probably need to get your head out of the sand, because I don't think in 14 years being involved in county government I've had anything that we've spent more time on than we have this wind energy stuff. So I think with that, I think we're ready to move on to the new business. And up on that is the Pager agreement for County Road 200 South study, County Road 150 South agreement. Jim, you want to talk? You want to talk about this? This agreement's with you. That's what threw me, Steve. I seen the United. I guess in the right agreement. So.
Yes, everybody's like, oh God, he's talking again.
This is this agreement's with USI Consulting. Jim has been involved with it. Sherry Hines' mother, which is Sherry's our representative, her mother passed away Saturday night late, so she was unable to be with us this morning. So Jim's going to take it over.
Again, the Pager agreement is basically what this is looking down 5 years down the road, what we're going to need funding to basically support our infrastructure. This is going to go in with Peter Consulting. Once we identify how much we're going to need, we're going to identify how we're going to pay for it. The other thing that this is we've got areas in what we call the industrial park over by I-74 and 32. We've got somebody interested in it. We want to know the numbers that's going to cost to improve it. So if we get into a point where we're negotiating with this developer or this industry, we want to know how much it's going to cost. So if the commissioners, the redevelopment, the sewer board, the council, if they get together and look at incentive packages or dictate to these industries what we are willing to put in, we just want to have a good number for that. So those are the first two items.
Okay. So the agreement amount for the USI Consulting is $12,136 for the work. Just for the record, a lot of people like to know what the cost is. So with that, I entertain a motion at this time to approve the agreement with USI Consulting for $12,136 for the Pager agreement.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion from you two? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Step 2. Go ahead, Jim.
The next one is Jim wants us to look at extending County Road 150 from Ladoga over to Newport. There's been a lot of interest in that road. We got a couple railroad crossings that are pretty dangerous. So we want to look to see what we can do to improve those, improve the roadways, the drainage, and have sufficient right-of-way to get these improved. And again, this is just giving us dollar amounts. It's not for current, it's going to be for current and also projected down the road. As you know, if we decide that this is a project that's priority 5 or 6 years down the road, we'll have a good idea of what that's going to be. And then the other one with, this is actually around what I call the Wiley site, a couple roads there. We've got a foreign company looking at that, which we have no specifications, but if we get narrowed down, we've been working with Cheryl to do that. If we get to the next level, that sounds like we will, we'll be able to tour their facility that they have in Indiana, so we can get an idea of what their operations are, what kind of infrastructure. And again, we'll have a good idea of what the road's going to cost. We're getting a good idea of what it's going to have to extend water to this site. We've already got sewer to this site. So again, you know, the council, you know, the ultimate for paying for things or giving an incentive. We want to give information so ultimately the council can make a business decision.
Okay, thank you, Jim. That's all in that one agreement.
No worries.
Moving on to B is the Peters Financial Engagement Agreement, which we talked about earlier on when Jim was doing his report on the thoroughfare plan. That agreement's in front of us for the physical plan for the county highway department, and that is a rate of $165 per hour.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Commissioners, back on A, we have two other contracts with USI for those road studies. One is for $33,027, and the other one is $33,917.
I think those were copies this week.
Oh, that's okay. I thought they were all copies. No, it's all together.
So our one vote took care of the whole.
Let's do it all separately. Okay, so the second one is the 150 agreement he talked about. This time I'd entertain a motion for approval of that as well.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then the third one was for the 200 South, which is the south side of that area. I'd entertain a motion for that one as well.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for those two as well. Any further discussion on them? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you.
Commissioners, next one is with United Consulting for the Tracks Overpass program, overpass of 231 and the existing tracks. This consultant will assist me in putting exhibits and costs together so we can submit this. And, you know, this will have us framework, you know, down the road if we weren't successful, because it's going to be very competitive. But hopefully, with lots of support with a representative or Senate, NDOT is supporting this all the way across the board. Probably we'll get schools, corporation, and hopefully we get the local government to give us approval. So hopefully, I think we'll have a good package here to go and try to get this funded.
Is there a dollar amount on that?
So is a one lump sum not to exceed 28,000, Steve, shaking his head?
Yes, I believe so.
Not to exceed 28, John.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. I guess in my opinion, I see some benefits of this project, but I think this project also might, I don't know, maybe push a little bit too far, but I'm willing to take a look at it, but I'm not sure about the whole thing. I can see, like I said, where part of it could benefit, but the other part I'm not sure about. So, like Jim said, I guess if we take a look at it, we have the framework and everything laid for future to go along with the plan that we're looking at. So, at this time, I'll call for the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
The next one is the Memorial Drive Bridge and Road extension. This is again just another study, so we have a good idea of what this is going to cost. we talked to NDOT, they're very interested in us lining up our Memorial Drive to 100 West, because that could be a identification of a signal intersection there. The other thing that this allows us to do is help us get funding on a low priority bridge from NDOT standpoint, which is Bridge 79, that needs to be replaced and road realigned. So hopefully with this, we can show what we're doing, and that might save us about $1.4 million on that bridge. So again, we're trying to be proactive and not reactive.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. This agreement, lump sum fee not to exceed $75,000. And with United Consulting as well. We have a motion and a second to approve the agreement. Any discussion, questions?
You know, there's been a lot of work done on that. It's been 10 years maybe since it started, that whole deal. And as you start looking at this thoroughfare plan and how that opens up the whole north side of Crawfordsville, and we're doing strategic planning in that area for economic development now. It's north of 74. And, this is just the next step in a long-term process.
I will agree with John in fact that this is a big step. However, this one is one that I have really a hard time supporting. He's correct. We've been 10 to 12 years on this project. This project was first looked at right after I came on the county council. We dropped a lot of funds into it and seem to be spinning a lot of wheels. I don't know that going forward, I definitely could see the advantage of it. But I think that as the county, even though the state talks like they do, I've heard the talk before. I'm not so sure we're not getting out ahead of ourselves on this one with money and dropping money into it. We're talking about dropping into this project. Speaking with the mayor and the city, I know the support's not there that it used to be as far as funding and helping with the cost of this project. And this is a project that's going to be rather expensive, and I'm just not sure that this is probably the best thing for us at this time. With that being said, I'll call for the question on the agreement of $75,000. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Motion passes 2-1. Next up is the 50/50 dust control. I think Dan is going to talk on that.
Yes, at your last meeting, you asked Jeremy and I to work on a dust control participation agreement in order to make it clear that this is an annual program and it needs to be signed up for each year, and also to make it clear how the cost will be allocated, and the fact that the highway department may need to come work on the roads after the application. And so Jeremy did meet with me and developed this one-page agreement, and so this addresses the issues that you raised. This is the participation agreement need to be signed by the owner of the participant of the land. Number one, says it's non-recurring, that they're signing up for 1 year only. Number two says it's cost sharing, and it has in there the details of how much per foot, and then the fact that it's available at intervals of 300 feet, as Jeremy explained to me. And the payment must be made at the time they sign up for the program. Paragraph 3 states that the highway department selects the dust control material and that they'll apply it late May, early June, and it's a one-time application. 4 deals with that road maintenance issue, and again makes it clear that if a citizen wants to lay that material down and then we have to come out and grade that road or do other work and we disturb that, that's the way it is. We're not going to compensate people for that or reapply that that's assumed. And that it's a voluntary program. People won't have to do this. So this would be a form that the treasurer would keep, and she collects the payments and have signed for each person who wants to do that. Still a good program, still a 50-50 cost sharing agreement, just like it's always been. This just memorializes some of the details of the program.
Any questions for Dan? Jeremy, you have anything to add? Okay, at this time I'd entertain a motion to approve the agreement as drafted for the signatures of the property owners.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'll just point out to the public, the program starts May 14th and ends June the 7th, if you wish to sign up.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 3-0. Next up is Andrea.
Good morning. I'm coming before you for a DOC grant that we've been awarded, and we're to the point of accepting it. It starts July 1, runs through June 30th of next year. This is our third year getting this grant. The only thing different this year is we've added a position. We've added a case manager for the problem solving courts, so we'll be working with the vet court and the drug court splitting the caseload. So the total grant amount is $190,924. I brought it before the council last week and they haven't approved it.
This time I would entertain a motion to approve the cooperation agreement grant with the probation department.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There you go.
Thank you.
Next up, HWC engineering contract, addendum number 3.
Second. Did you skip city and county?
Did I skip it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, hang on just a minute. We'll back up to the city-county cooperation agreement. That's what happens when you leave your classes. Item G is a agreement between the city and the county that we ran for the last 4 years, and that is the city comes through up to 3 times a year in the summer and sweeps the parking lot at the courthouse, the South Boulevard, as well as the jail. If you've been in any of those parking lots over time, you'll notice, especially the South Boulevard gets extremely bad and stuff. And that is a one-time cost of $1,600 for the year, and that gets us, like I said, 3 sweepings on all 3 parking lots. He comes in early in the morning before anybody gets here and gets it done, so they're not in our way or anything. And that was a 4-year agreement, I think, initially. And so the city has approved it since the original term expired. The only thing that's changed on it is the dates. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the agreement with the city on the sweeping of the lots.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next up now is the engineering contract.